In a world that often emphasizes toughness over vulnerability and possessions over inner growth, Men's Breakthrough Hangout is here to challenge the status quo. Join In a world that often emphasizes toughness over vulnerability and possessions over inner growth. Men's Breakthrough Hangout is here to challenge the status quo. Join me and my guest, Dr. Stephen Frueh, PhD, as we unpack the 10 mistaken commandments for high performance males and the 10 alternatives. You ready to go? Let's make it happen. All right. How you doing, Dr. Frueh?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. It's a beautiful day up here in Ventura County. Just
I
love
bet
it.
it is. I
Yes.
bet it is. So you sent me an email, I think it was last week, and I loved it because you had the 10 mistaken commandments for high performance males and the 10 alternatives. And I loved it. I read through it. I'm like, whoa, this is going to shock some people. So I love, me, I love like shocking people. So how did you come up with it? What was your idea?
Well, that's fun. That's really fun. At this age, I don't sleep through the night anymore. I go to bed at 9:30 or 10 or 10:30, and I get a really good night's sleep between that and 1:30. And about 1:30, quarter to 2, I wake up and I don't know what to do with myself. Certainly, my body is saying, "You're not going back to sleep, pal." So I can go for a hike or I can do something else. What happens is I have turned it now, and you can learn. Any guy can learn from this. Is I embrace it. It's 2 a.m. and I'm ready to create. I got a notebook by my bed. I got good fountain pens. I buy really good ballpoint pens because I like them. I have something to drink. I have a nice thermos of water, and I'm ready to go. And from 2 to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I read and I write. And then I go back to sleep for another couple hours. So what happened is that I started thinking about commandments that I was raised with. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not bear false witness. You guys know those. And then I think a lot of men walk around with sort of commandments, but they don't think of them as commandments. And I myself walk around thinking of commandments, but it's a way of establishing a pattern of masculinity, what you believe in, but you don't really tell everybody you believe in it. So I just, as a lark, I started writing them out. Thou shalt not be vulnerable, that one. And I said, well, where the hell did that come from? That came from the North Jersey community culture of you had to be a tough guy to survive, and you didn't dare show your vulnerability, because if you did, you were called names.
That wasn't even a word. That vulnerability wasn't even a word. It wasn't even a concept.
Right. You could be called a crybaby.
Yeah, that's right.
It's called a crybaby. What's the matter with you? Yeah. You could be called a pussy. You could be called a little girl. You could be called a lot of demeaning things that were demeaning both to men and to women. But men learned them. I learned them and practiced them unconsciously. So what I'd want your audience to get as we start is we're looking at stuff you walk around with, but you don't know you walk around with it, okay? That's what we're trying to do. Because if you could say, to any of these, they open up a conversation for your own personal development and growth.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, please. Well, the minute you say, get that. The minute you say, Martine's talking about something and you go, I never thought of it that way. Because Martine and I do this with each other. He says something and I say, or I say something and he says, I never thought of it that way. That's growth between men. That stimulates and opens up a conversation that's incredibly valuable for you in your own personal work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's take a look at them. The first, we'll take a look at the 10 mistaken commandments. And you want to read through them, or you want me to? Why don't you go and read through them? I'd like to hear it from your. Well,
okay. We start. There's no particular order.
Let's
Um,
start with the one though that says, "Thou shalt not be vulnerable." Let's start with
Thou
that.
shalt not be vulnerable. Well, you could start. There's a good friend who I'm doing some work with, and he's a coach of coaches. His name is Tommy Costello. He coaches other coaches and a lot of baseball people. He's very, very talented and very with it in his work. And we talk about things like a good player is somebody who plays hurt. And he questions that. He doesn't tell his athletes to play hurt.
I
He
saw
tells
that.
them,
I saw that. I saw your podcast on that last week. It's like, because if you go to the room where they're doing the therapy, like all the physical therapy, then they're going to go, "Oh, your knee's messed up. Boy, we're going to trade you." So there's
yes,
that fear, right?
you don't dare be vulnerable because it'll affect your career. That's what he
Yeah,
was saying. But that's
yeah,
also true. I have a PhD in divinity studies. It's also true in the church that ministers would not go to other ministers to talk about their challenges. It's
yeah.
also true of the CEO level, C-suite. It's true of those men and women, but more men, that they don't really get to say, boy, I'm afraid or I don't know what to do. It's true of the male population. It's a generalization, so don't worry about if it's scientifically proven. But
Yeah.
it's an observation, and you can apply it to yourself. Vulnerability is the willingness to expose my limitations.
I
Vulnerability.
look at vulnerability as the willingness to act in the face of fear. Like I call it courage at the same time.
That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. A lot of times I'll work with I work with guys, and then there's that whole conversation about feminine and masculine energy, and what my take is, and is like, I do not want to make love to a woman that is being masculine. I want to break to a woman that is feminine. That's it.
Yeah,
And so I understand the concept behind it. I just, for me, and men's breakthrough is like, let's focus on, if we're going to focus on men, let's focus on the qualities of men, and then let's expand those qualities so that as men we can connect to them. For instance, I don't use the word vulnerability. I use the word courage, because
that's
courage becomes an
different though.
action.
Yeah,
I,
that's
I look at
different.
it the same, but go ahead. You would break it down. Break it down. What's different about it?
Yeah, well, I think in an interest of I don't know how many of these you want to get through, but there's a couple of conversations right there that we should pursue at a future time. One is the difference between what is courage and what is vulnerability and how are they connected. One
Okay,
is
great.
what is the essence of the masculine? What is the essence of the feminine? Because
Yeah.
the healthy feminine has a whole lot of masculinity in it, and the healthy masculine has a whole lot of femininity in it. We just don't know that. The culture doesn't teach us that. We don't. That's what you get in a good deep therapist's office. That's what you get there. You really explore. But on the cultural level, we don't explore that stuff. That
Wonderful.
makes
Wonderful.
sense.
Let's go to number 2. Thou
Number
shalt measure thyself by how much and what you own.
in the 70s and 80s, the bumper sticker was um, the man with the most toys wins.
Yes.
And
That might be in the 2020s too.
that was a cynical thing,
Yeah.
because he who has the most toys wins. Well, that's like in college, kind of checking up how many people you date or something. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I have a house at the beach. Or in the church, when I was in the church and would go to a minister's retreat, the ministers would be talking about how many people in their congregation. I wasn't interested. I was a young buck. I wasn't interested whether you had 500 people or 5,000 people. That was
Mm,
about you and your income. That wasn't about what I thought was the work of the church, which is service of others. So it's easy to get in a scientific culture where we look at the cash value of an idea. We call that capitalism. It's easy to get seduced into measuring everything by one dimension, which is net worth.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
the culture will say, hey, Martine, you're worth $150,000 in your stock market. And I'm just making this up. $150,000 in your stock investment. Your friend Bob is worth $750,000. Now you walk into the same room, Chamber of Commerce. If people know that, they're going to treat Bob with more respect than they treat you.
Yeah. Well, I take a
because
picture. I drive a Honda CRV, and I take a
yeah,
picture next to my Honda CRV, and then I take a picture next to a Porsche. There people are going to create an assumption from each picture.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Let's go
Or
to
you
number 3. So
okay.
women, that's why I needed you to explain this one. This is a tough one. So women are there for your use and benefit. That's going to be a tough one. Go and talk about that one.
Well, that comes out of the therapist's office where high performing men say, I don't ask much. I earn a lot of money. We take nice vacations. She's driving a new Mercedes. What does she want? All I want to do is get laid once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say, whoa, what woman in a right mind would want to be with such a voice?
That's great.
That's
I
I have 5 daughters, and I'm sitting there. Or I'll give you another example. I'm doing a consultation for a high-end company that takes care of high wealth people. And the partners are standing in the hallway one day complaining about one of the bookkeepers, and they say, rolling their eyes, they say, well, it's that time of month again. And I said to them, you can't talk that way in front of me. And they said, what are you talking about? I said, you can't talk that way in front of me. I have daughters, and thou shalt not blame them or shame them for having a menstrual cycle.
I love it.
So that's a mindset.
Yeah.
You'll see in the second 10, when we talk about women, we're talking about something very, very different. We don't know much about partnering. That's what you learn in the therapist's office. Men don't know much at all about women, and you link that to men and their mother problem, and there's a fear of mother, and they're working underneath some kind of spell, and then you get what this one's about. This one is about a 3-hour workshop, but that's the beginning.
Let's go.
So
number 4, thou shalt.
Maybe it's an all-day workshop. Go ahead.
I think it's a lifetime workshop.
Yes, I think so too.
How about number 4? Thou shalt be an absentee father.
This is corporate America speaking.
It is.
This is saying you don't get, Martine, you get your wife pregnant and you don't get to have a leave, a maternity leave.
Yeah,
you get the baby's born and you go right back to work the next day or the day after. You get to leave at 6:30 in the morning. You get to come home at 6:30 at night. Your child gets to wave at you from a distance. If you're going to go to a soccer game, unless you're like a federal employee, like a fireman or a policeman, maybe you have more flexibility. But in the corporate world, you're not going to be there.
Your loyalty to the company. Your loyalties to the company.
Yeah. What's that song? Was it Cat Stevens sang that song? Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Let's do number 5. Thou shalt work tirelessly to impress those around you. That's kind of like number 2.
Look at me, mommy. I was in the Angeles Crest Highway 30 years ago. I used to ride motorcycles a lot, and I had a bunch of motorcycles. And the therapist friend had invited a young man he was coaching, 17 years old, to ride with us early one Saturday morning. As we were riding up Angeles Crest, this young man came past all of us because he was good, leaning down, scraping the pegs, sparks flying. And I'm going, oh my God. We get about a mile up the road and he's laying in the middle of the road. And the way we all stopped and we all did make sure that the cars weren't going to come along and kill him. Well, my therapist friend was up, bending over him, checking him out. The young man had leathers on. He was injured, but not heavily injured. And within a few minutes, my therapist friend is saying, he's confronting him. What do you think you're doing? And so on. So I talked to him later. I said, you were angry with him. Yeah. He said, 2 things, Stephen. 1, I checked whether he was okay. Once I found out he was okay, I gave him an ass kicking. I told him that you don't have to impress me. You do impress me. You don't have to. Just because you don't have a family, just because you've had terrible wounds, we got a group of brothers here, and we invited you. You want to be a brother. You don't have to show off for us to include you. That kind of thing.
And there was another side to that, because you gave me that story when I was telling you about my son, how he had gotten in trouble and he had a DUI, and then I wanted to talk about that, but I did not talk to him about that, and I did not share with him how it felt for me, like how I was afraid and how I was concerned. That I was able to shift how I communicate with him, because I found myself mothering him or fathering him or whatever, just
Yeah.
babying him, and it really and because of your was having a conversation with you, that shifted that, and I was able to have like a real conversation with him, like, listen, little shit, you don't have
Yeah.
you don't have
Yeah.
permission to go out and you kill yourself. That's like, I'm not good with that,
Yeah. Yes.
I love that. So that's
Y-
how that shifted for me. That's they'll show. So number 6 would be so I don't know that he was trying to impress me. Let's go back to number 5. That my son was not trying to impress me. However, that same scenario, that same energy that we have, like to impress or to not disappoint, is also part of how we don't communicate what we need to communicate to make the point across, is that to make the point in this case of like, hey, you could have hurt yourself, and I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with you hurting yourself.
Yes. And
Yeah.
if we had more time, we would take this farther in another direction. The helicopter parent, what we call the helicopter parent, is overly emphasizing something that the child doesn't need emphasizing. What the root of impression is, the child needs to be seen. Write that down on your hand if you're a father. My children need to be seen and they need to be heard. They don't need to be overly praised, because that's
Yeah.
goofy. But what Martine is saying is he found a way to look at his son differently. His son needed to be seen. He's the dad. And that's what he has to give. I see you, son.
Yeah, I see
I
you, and let's have a conversation about that. Yeah, and it was really interesting, because prior to that conversation, it was I was more being a quote unquote good dad. I was
yeah,
more being this particular type of dad. And what was missing for me was a truth that I had, which was I was actually very, very scared for him. And I did not
yeah,
express that to him. So thank you.
yes, yeah.
So let's go to number 6. Thou shalt use ingenuity to medicate your fears and anxieties. Oh my God. How many
Well,
different versions of ingenuity do we have to medicate ourselves?
right, right. You say, hey, Martine, it's Thursday afternoon. Let's have a drink and then let's relax. Let's get back.
Yeah.
Well, a drink doesn't relax you. A drink depresses you.
Mm.
Get that. You get a rush of sugar and you get alcohol. That's not in your best interest. That is not in the interest of your health. You're not having fun. That's an illusion.
Yeah.
So if you
You know,
ever go out and drink with your buddies, you find out the next day isn't quite as good a day as it could have been. So
this,
we find ways to. We find a lot of different ways to self-medicate, and all of them are dysfunctional for the most part that I know of. Mine are. Whether it's drinking, whether it's drugs, whether it's some kind of prescription medication. We're going to talk about that when we get to the other one, the alternative. So we'll hold that. But just look at the ways you convince yourself that you need to self-medicate, because
oh my
most of
God.
those are lies. Go ahead.
And then how about the habitual? How about the ones that were they're automatic medications that we're not even aware of? And that's why I'm holding this thing up, this Facebook,
Yeah.
this social media stuff that you go and you see 2 or 3 people, they're all on their phones, they're not even communicating. Now I say, you tell me, I say that the fact that they're not communicating, that they're stuck in their phones, it gives them a sense of comfort, because to not be in the phone and to be present and to have to generate thoughts and have to generate a relationship with each other and have to be responsible for how you actually feel and how other
Yes.
people feel and work on an interaction.
Yes.
That's you're gonna have to burn some calories on that one. You're gonna have to that requires some work. But locking yourself into a phone, no, you can run away. I don't know if there's any difference between that, or much of a difference between that and drinking or smoking.
I would agree. And if you want to put feet under what Martine is saying, go to a restaurant tonight and observe the couples.
Yeah.
There'll be couples there, both of them on their
Yeah.
phone, believe it or not. You say, what kind of marriage must that be? They've spent most of the meal only occasionally talking to each other, most of the meal checking their phones. And they'll say the next day, yeah, we went out to dinner last night, but we were watching Instagram, or we were
Yeah,
watching, checking our, yeah.
they're going like this. Oh, and they're sharing with each other
Yeah.
somebody else's. You're sharing somebody else's attention, somebody else's attempt at getting your attention. That's really interesting. And you know, I'm guilty of it, but
it's a powerful drug, right?
It's a very, and the smartest brain guys are working at making it even a stronger drug.
Yes.
Yeah. How about number 7? And let's just keep going. So let's go over this one even if we go longer. So number 7, thou shalt spend little or no time on knowing and understanding your spiritual life. Oh my God. That's awesome.
Now,
let's dig into that one.
Yeah, don't think religious life, okay? Take religion out of that, because in this country we have confused those two. We're not talking about religion here. Religion's fine. Whatever you practice is fine. Do it all you want. But I'm talking about spiritual life, which is about your presence, your voice, your authenticity, your resonance. What makes your tail wag? What makes you go, oh? What puts shivers down your spine? Yeah. I have a newborn great-grandson. Great-grandson, number 16. And I held him. I held him 2 weeks ago. Yeah. He's that big. Yeah. And I'm going, I had tears. I had the shivers. This is a miracle. I am 85. He's 2 months, 1 month. And I'm holding him. He's looking at me in the eye, and I'm looking him in the eye. And I'm thinking, clearly, this is miraculous. This is not a religion miraculous. This is universe. This is creation right in front of us, right in our midst. This is the Big Bang going on right here. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know. I don't know what that's going to become of him or how his life is going to go, because I won't be here. But I'll be here for a while, and I'll resonate to his heart and to his amazing focus and his open-heartedness. He has no way to protect himself against me, and he has no desire to protect himself against me. He is totally open to me, and that's resonance, and that resonance is the core of your spirituality. Pay attention to it.
Absolutely. So this is the mistake is not spending time. That's what the mistaken commandments is all about. Number 8 is thou shalt pretend.
Well, look at the advertisements, and you have all you need to say on that. They try to make you into something that you're not. Absolutely. You drive that Porsche, or you do the weightlifting, not because you're going to have a healthier heart, but because you want to show up and impress the people around you. It's part of the thou shalt impress me. But it's pretentious. And in the book, People of the Lie, which is the road less traveled guy, I can't think of his name right now. He wrote a second book, People of the Lie. In that book, he says pretentiousness is evil. And I sort of buy that.
Yeah, it's certainly just not you. It's a pretense. It's a pretend version. Yeah. It is a version that is it is a version of me or you or the person who's listening. It's the version of you that is not true. So where are you? Where is your spirit? Where is your spirit? Because yes, it's not your spirit. It's a version of something else. And then it's like, and how do you even, and it has just a limited amount of energy and happiness, because it has to be you have to like create bigger. So you'll just get lost in it.
Well, that's the old cliche people used to say is it's okay to be a liar, but you better have a really good memory.
Number 9, which kind of goes with that, thou shalt deny.
It's a masculine gift. It's a woman's gift too, who puts high heels on and certain mascara and stuff like that. That's kind of denial of her basic beauty. But I call it a more of problem on our side of the road because we play hurt. We pretend to be somebody we're not. We try to, hey, honey, I'm home. How are you today? Our voices go way up. We pretend to feel things we're not feeling. We're in denial about what we're needing. That's the level you want to get to. The getting out of their basic needs. We have 7 basic needs in the book I wrote on Marginal to Magnificent, How to Make a Healthy Marriage. I list 7 basic needs. We should do a thing around those needs because
what are they?
What are they?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have time to get in. I mean, because
you
each
can just
one
say
of
what they are. The basic. What are the basic?
well, the need to be seen, the need to love, as contrasted to the need to be loved. We have a need to love. It's our gift. It's our presence on the planet. It's far more important to love than to be loved. It's that's getting you out of denial. Nice. It's getting you out of self-protection and out of fear and all that stuff. The awesome. Need for good communication. The need for conflict. In conflict is gold. The need for conflict between 2 people is very, very important.
Yes.
The need to share ourselves intimately with another person. Those are basic, fundamental human needs. So I forgot a couple right there, but it doesn't matter. We'll get back to them.
They're good. Let's go. We definitely get back to that for sure.
Yeah, they're basic. And then if you look at your life that way, you change argumentation with another person. Say you love a man, or if you're a woman listening, you love a man, and you see you have frequent arguments about you don't know how to listen to each other, and you're competing with each other, and you're not getting down to your basic needs with each other. Once you get down to your basic needs, you're not arguing anymore. What you are doing, though, is you're entering a piece of real vulnerability and real exposure. And that's a big conversation.
Yeah. One of the things we talk about in Men's Breakthrough in my workshop, the curiosity theory as well.
Yeah.
When we focus on needs, and when we really focus on needs, and we take responsibility for those are ours. Those are ours, and it's my job.
Yes.
My job to meet them. And then when it's funny because people will say, "Well, this is a need I have," and then they'll say, "I need my wife to do that." Well, that no longer becomes that need.
That's not a need.
If I have a need for, let's say, vulnerability, then I need my wife to meet that. You've now left the need for vulnerability. You've left that need because now your need is maybe to be validated or something like that. So it's really interesting how when we project our needs onto something else and we think that's a need, that actually shifts. You are no longer operating that need.
Yeah, that's wise. I'm glad you're doing that work.
Thanks. And number 10, thou shalt work to slowly become senile. Yeah.
Well, if that's a kind of a summary of all the first 9, because I'm 85 years old, and people say you don't seem to be 85, and I say, well, I don't feel like I'm 85, but it's not my physiological being. I can't run 100-yard dashes anymore. But senility is practiced patterns that are not the healthiest patterns for you. So, honey, I'm home. That's a practiced pattern. What's the break of that, Stephen? I walk in and say, Lynn, what? How are you? How was your day? How were you today? How are you? How were you? And if she turns toward me and says, how are you doing? I know you had some stuff going on today. I say, I'd like to talk about this thing or this thing. Can we talk about it after dinner for a few minutes? Yeah, I'm stepping out of senile patterns of my parents. And I'm genuinely, as Martine says, I'm genuinely curious, which is my love of her. I'm genuinely curious about her, not about whether I'm going to get complimented or supported or blown up or told what a great guy I am. I'm curious about her, the woman I partner with.
Yeah. And we're not operating in patterns and habits so that we're asleep to what's happening in our life, that we all of a sudden then we have a drink and the drink doesn't even do anything because we're not even present. Have a nice glass of wine is a great thing to do, being present to the wine. And I'm not saying you should do it this way. I'm just suggesting that when you have a glass of wine, if you actually enjoy that glass and you take time to be curious about it and investigate it, versus, I just pour myself something and I'm walking around flipping the television, checking on the kids, and I'm just like, gobbling down wine. There's that becomes that's kind of like the absentee father, the absentee human being.
Yes.
It becomes pretentious. You're pretending. I wouldn't call it pretending. It's just you're just not present.
Do we have about 3 minutes for one more story before we're done?
Yeah, we have plenty.
Okay.
Then we'll go to the other. Well, then we'll work
Okay,
on
let me
other.
tell you one more story, because I love this story, and I've worked with this man a long time. He's a CEO. He's a man of means, great means, and he would come in and tell me he had a theory that women, once they had children, lost all interest in sexuality, and that he and his wife haven't made love in 10 years. He told me I could tell this story. Of course, I wouldn't identify him, but that's what he said. So we did some work on that. And one little thing I came up with, it's not a big thing, it's a little thing. Try it. I said, you commute over an hour each day, each way to your place that you own, your business that you own. What do you do? Tell me exactly what you do. So he told me. So I said, I want you to try something different. I want you to, about 3 or 4 blocks away from home, I want you to stop your car, park your car, make sure the doors and windows are closed, locked. And then I want you to shut off the radio and everything. I want you to finish the couple of business calls that you have, always men have. He would walk into the house finishing business calls. Hi, honey, I'm home. Yeah, no problem. Like that. So I said, I want you to finish those in the car. Once you're finished with those and you're satisfied with that, I want you to close your phone, turn it off, put it in your briefcase, close the briefcase, flip the lock. Then I want you to shut your eyes and meditate. Do some deep breathing for a couple of minutes. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Oh, like that, some deep breathing. Once you've done that, I want you to imagine your shop, your office, your building. I want you to imagine you're closing the door that you always leave by and that you're locking it. And you stand there, look at the building and say, good night, business. I'll see you in the morning. Then I want you to turn your attention to the front door of your home. And this man had 2 lovely daughters. And I said, I want you to imagine your wife and your daughters standing on the front porch and saying to you when you get out of your car, oh, we're so glad to see you. We have so much to share with you. Just that. He said, okay, I can do that. He comes in the following week and he said, he's all full of himself. And he says, that's genius. I said, what? I forgot that we even did it. He said, that's genius. What's genius? He said, I walked in the door. I put my briefcase off to the side. I didn't go to my office like I usually do. I sat on a stool in the kitchen watching my wife, who's making, she's a Mexican woman, makes wonderful Mexican food, burritos and all kinds of stuff. She was cooking a bunch of that stuff. That's why I'm overweight. I eat her food. It's the best food in the world. He says, I sit on the stool and I say to her, how are you? And she says, what? He says, well, I'm wondering how you are. She said, go to your office and finish your business. He said, no, I've already finished my business. I want to know how you are. And I want to tell you, you look really, really lovely today in that dress you're wearing, that thing you're wearing. You look really, really good. It's so nice to see you. I'm so happy to be home, and I'm so happy to be your partner. He said the next thing that happened, about an hour, they had dinner and all that. She came over to his chair at the end of dinner. He said, I got the first kiss on the mouth that I have gotten in 10 years. I said, wow. Well, he said, you can imagine, we haven't had sex. We never kiss on the mouth. She kissed my cheek. Hi, how are you? How are you, honey? First time. He said there was real depth in that kiss. And he said that we've just been working with that day by day, trying to listen to each other in a new way because of that simple thing. So that's what that's about. Senility is about doing the same thing and expecting change. What's that saying? You keep doing the same thing and you expect
different results. Yeah.
Yes, that's senility. Breaking
That's
senility is living in the present.
That's awesome. So let's do this. Let's do this because we have these 10 alternative commandments.
Yes.
And we're at 35 minutes. And so what I'd like to do is just to save this.
Yes.
For another. So in 2 weeks, we're gonna we'll go over this. You
I
okay
think
with
that's excellent. Yes, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
All
So
right.
thank you, Dr. Frueh. Thank you. I love what you said. I have something to say about, what you just said. I have an exercise that I teach people, and it's called a PM shutdown. It's the PM
Yes.
shutdown, and it's basically what it is complete your day. So I complete my day at 5:45, even if it's not complete. I declare my day complete. I declare it complete. And if there are a few other things I have to do, they are now part of they're part of something different. They're no longer a part of that. So I have a lot more freedom in doing other things. And what I find is that when I do my PM shutdown at 5:45, I take a look at like, okay, I have 3 more things to do. And I often look at it and I go, I can do these tomorrow. And I put them on my calendar for the next
That's
day.
excellent. Excellent. What a
Yeah.
gift it is to the men you work with. It's a great gift.
So thank you, Dr. Frueh. I got your information in the comments. If you want to connect with Dr. Frueh, this is just an amazing coach, and he's an amazing consultant. He's just an amazing guy to talk to. I love it. Kind of what you guys are getting here is like the way that he and I talk. We talk about subjects. We bounce ideas off each other. I learn. I'm here to learn. I'm here to be a better man, a better husband, a better man. And Dr. Frueh is just happy to give that to me. So I just said, hey, why don't you, rather than just give it to me, let's give it to everybody else that's on there. And I think it's an absolute honor to have this relationship with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And it's if you guys want to watch something that will highlight what we're doing, it's Simon Sinek has a TED Talk called Know Your Why. And the reason what Martine is saying is Martine is knowing his why. I am knowing my why. We're different aged men, but we have a purpose and we have an intention. That's what you're going to feel in these podcasts. And what you can get from that, you want to be around men who have a purpose and have an intention, even if it's not your intention. There's life there. There's new life there. So that's what I get when we are sharing, going back and forth. I learn from him. He learns from me. God bless.
That's it. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes. Bye.